Hi everybody. In my last video I was talking about the law of Moses that's found in the Old Testament was a mirror of man's self-righteousness, and I gave you my take on it as that, and because I was trying to point out that it's erroneous and the furthest from the truth for anybody to say, and it is often said, that the law found in the Old Testament represents the character and nature of God. I even Googled it and I found all kinds of articles titled that the law is the character and nature of God. It couldn't be more opposite. So my take on it is a mirror of man's self-righteousness, like I said in the last video. And if you want to know more about that, you can go to that video. And but what I want to address here is I'm doing this in steps, and I'm working this out as I go on how to present this in steps, because I think I need to hit certain steps before I get to my final point that I want to make. And I said in the earlier video that we've been running into a topic or an issue in recent weeks, actually quite a bit. And not only that, it has come up again in a couple of emails we recently got. And the person writing the email, what this is all leading to actually is the people have an issue with the cross. A lot of people who believe that God is nothing but a loving God, which He is nothing but a loving God, they believe that we're all okay and that everybody will be in heaven and nobody goes to hell, and that's all great. But they reject our message because they reject the cross. They don't like it. And we talk about the cross. So, um, uh, some of the points made, especially in a recent email, was about the law, and the person who wrote that email was talking about how Jesus didn't even endorse the law. Well, actually, he endorsed it. He just didn't live by it. And they pointed out how Jesus healed the sick on the Sabbath and several other things. And I've always said Jesus never lived under the law. He never lived by the law. Mike, numerous times in past webcasts, pointed out how he healed the sick on the Sabbath. He not only ate and harvested grain for food on the Sabbath, he had his disciples too do it, and which was against the Sabbath. So he did not live under the law. And in the Old Testament, there are those who understood grace and the righteousness of God who also did not live under the law. David loved the law, but he didn't live under it. He defied it every chance he got. He ate the showbread and had his men do likewise. That was against the law. He threw his hands up onto the Ark of the Covenant in total defiance, which normally would have brought death, but not him. He didn't live under the law. He lived by grace. He understood grace. David was not condemned because he knew his righteousness was not in the law. He knew his righteousness was in the Lord. He knew God loved him. He understood what the law was about, though. He understood that the law revealed a condition of sin, and David knew his righteousness was in God. And he talked about it in the Psalms, how his righteousness would be fulfilled in the coming Messiah. And he sang praises because of that. But David never lived by the law. He was a murderer, a fornicator, a liar. He defied the tradition of the law every chance he got. But he wasn't condemned. He wasn't condemned by the law. He knew the law, what the law condemned. He knew that there was a condition called sin, but he had righteousness in the Lord, and the Lord was going to render that sin obsolete. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because this person who wrote this email, unfortunately, brought up another issue about me and Mike. See, something a little unfortunate happened last year, where it became public knowledge that I am also gay. Now, it is public knowledge that Mike is gay as far as the ministry goes and everything, but as far as the ministry went, that was not, I wasn't public about that. Sure, there were people who knew, but I was private about that. Am I personally out? Yes, but as a public persona in the ministry, no, that wasn't a public thing. And because it's only a coincidence that I work for Mike and I happen to be gay. I work for Mike because I believe in this message and I'm devoted to getting it out any way, shape, or form. And yes, since then, some people have dismissed what I say because they found out that I'm gay. But in the email, the person who wrote this email said that he was happy that Mike and I could embrace our sexuality, our homosexuality. But he was talking about how he couldn't accept that people before the cross were condemned. Well, Mike and I were condemned after the cross, but that's because we were taught by Christianity to find our righteousness in law. Now, Christianity picked and chose which laws to do and not do. I mean, they would eat shellfish, and there's no way a Christian would sell his daughter to a man who raped him for 50 shekels, which the law says you're supposed to do. So they pick and choose. You know, it's just preposterous. But that's just a mirror of man's self-righteousness, as I discussed in the previous video. Had David been gay, because he understood grace, he would not have been condemned by the law. When Mike and I came to understand grace, we were no longer condemned because we knew the law was abolished. We knew what it did, and we were condemned when we were living under the law. But when we came to understand grace, and our condemnation actually drove us to understand it, but we were never condemned by God. See, this is leading to what I'm going to talk about next, which is the love of God. Because the people who take issue with the cross also take issue with anger. And it's becoming obvious to me that they confuse anger with love. More on that in the next video. So, I hope you're having a good day. And it's a nice day here in Florida. So, talk to you soon.